So thank you for joining today, everyone. My name is Mike Tholfsen, and I work on the Microsoft Education product team. And today we've got a treat. We've got agents in education. And this is going to be led by Dr. Jerry Gillespie and Jethro Seegers, both who work in Microsoft Education. And so with that, I'm just going to kick it over to Jerry and Jethro.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike, and thank you everyone for joining us. I know it's 30 minutes of agents, and I know you did not come to hear myself, the technical person, talk a lot, but we are going to set the stage a little bit about what agents are, why you want to use agents, what the benefits are for agents, and then of course the majority of the time I'm going to give the kind of the torch to Dr. Jerry, and she's not only going to show us how agents work, she's also going to give you some tips and tricks on how to create an agent. Some of the things that she has done in the last few months when agents become available, and give you tons of experiences on how to make the best agents for your school district, for your university, etc. So without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, we want to share some resources as well. So if you want to get started with agents, this is a URL that absolutely you want to start with, aka.ms chat, a Copilot chat edu, gives you all the resources, a lot of information for you to get started. So a little bit of an agenda. We're going to briefly talk about Microsoft Copilot, agents, and then I will, like I said, give the torch to Dr. Jerry to talk about agents and actions, and let's build an agent. The goal today, ladies and gentlemen, is that after 30 minutes, we want you to feel comfortable building your own agent and have a lot of ideas on how to build agents. And of course, as always, feel free to share them with us on LinkedIn, on X, on any social media that you have. We want you to be a part of this. So first of all, let's talk a little bit, very briefly, about Copilot, right? You've been using probably Microsoft 365 Copilot or the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, which is our free of cost experience, right? But next to that, we also have Copilot devices. We have Copilot plus PC, which are Copilot devices with AI on board that allows you to use AI directly on the device itself. Surface has a lot of these devices. A lot of our partners have, and we're actually building currently experiences that will run on these devices to give you an amazing AI experience within your classroom as well. And then finally, we also have the Copilot AI stack. If you have heard about Azure, that's really where that runs. If you are like, hey, Jethro, love what you're doing with agents in Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Chat, but we want a little bit more additional control, additional work, guess what? We can offer that as well. That's on our AI stack. And of course, very important in Microsoft is everything is surrounded by security. Everything that we do is with security in mind. We want you to feel safe to use our AI components. We want you to feel safe to use our AI experiences, whether those are in Teams, whether those are in Copilot, whether those are in Azure, or on our devices. Everything is protected by our master security stack. All right. Of course, we are here to talk about agents, right? You've probably heard it before. If not, take a look at some of our blog posts. You will see the quote, Copilot is the UI for your AI. Some of the things you're going to see there is that we have the components to build agents. Agents is going to be able to help you come and execute specific tasks, be more efficient, do certain things faster, or help less experienced educators and people in your organization kind of use your knowledge to drive the same type of functionality. Copilot is the UI for your AI. You're very much in luck. Today, we've made an announcement for a new Microsoft 365 Copilot app. The announcement is out there. Go take a look. We're actually redesigning that experience to give you the best experience to actually interact with our AI experiences. So absolutely something you want to look into. You're going to see in a bit when Dr. Jerry is building some of these agents. Copilot Studio and Copilot Studio Agent Builder specifically is the UI that we want to use to build these agents. Make it very easy. It's as easy as describing what you want your agent to do. And then, of course, everything, like I mentioned, is controlled by our Copilot control system, which allows you to control who has access to your agents, what information is available to your agents, understanding who is using your agents so that you're not just creating a free for all. All right. When we go into a Microsoft 365 Copilot, this is probably something that you have seen. We have a large language model, GPT-4o, currently available. It's available in our Office applications. One of the huge benefits, and just a little sneak preview or something that Dr. Jerry will show as well. It also has an impact on where you can actually execute some of your agents. Of course, we have access to Microsoft 365 content, like your emails, like your documents, all the things. And then, of course, the web component as well, so that we always bring in the latest information that is out there on the World Wide Web. Now, starting today, we're actually going to add a additional components, and those are agents. And that's really where we're here. And what do we want to do with agents is really bringing in a unique chat experience that you can build yourself. So when we start with Copilot, everybody has seen the Copilot experience. If you have the M365 license, you probably have seen the work component, which gives you access to all your emails, all your documents, all the good stuff that you have there. And potentially you also have seen the web component. That's the free of cost. Now, for a lot of people, Copilot can be very overwhelming. You get this big chat experience, and often it's like, how do I get started? Like, how do I ask the right question? How do I make sure I get Copilot to respond like it's an instructional designer? How do I get Copilot to respond like she is Dr. Jerry? I wanted Dr. Jerry sitting next to me with 30 years of experience in the pedagogical field, with her PhD in education technologies and all this good stuff. How does that work, right? Agents are going to make Copilot more personal for your users. It's like having a personal Dr. Jerry sitting next to you. It's having like your own IT consultant sitting next to you. It's like sitting your own HR consultant next to you, right? So rather than having the full experience, we're going to slim it down. We're going to make it more specialized. We're going to make it more task-oriented and targeted. And of course, agents make Copilot more capable. I often ask the question when I say this is like, what do you mean, Jethro? It's like, I thought Copilot was able to do everything. Well, not everything, right? Out of the box, it's not a Dr. Jerry. It doesn't have 30 years of pedagogical experiences. We want to bring in that knowledge, right? We want to bring in how to create a really good lesson plan, how to create action items, how to create a more interactive lecture, how to do reflections, right? A little bit of a spoiler alert of what Dr. Jerry is going to do in a bit, but it makes it more capable. And of course, what we want to do is still keep that security, keep that governance, keep that management. But the most important thing is that you can build it. I truly believe after the next pretty much, let's say, 20 minutes, you're going to feel comfortable going into Copilot and building your own agents. So without further ado, I'm going to give the word to Dr. Jerry, who is going to walk us how some of these agents work and later how they are actually built.
So yes, I am Dr. Jerry Gillespie. I'm an educator, leader, but most importantly, learner for the last 3 decades in education. And that's where I've been, honestly, especially on this journey and using agents. And I come back to always why it matters, right? That's when we look at anything that we use, we should be looking at why it matters and how it applies to our practice. And that is looking at agents also. For the last few years, we've been talking about how we're using AI to bring that personalization to meet individuals where they're at in the work that we're doing. And this is a concrete example of how you're being specific and intentional in using Copilot. And so you're going to be able to go through this journey and actually guide and create an agent that's going to be your cognitive partner. Now, I talk a lot about Copilot as my cognitive partner, and I use the word partner because there has to be a give and take. I have to do a lot of majority of the work. Copilot's going to be there to assist me and make and let me go deeper in what it is I want to accomplish. It's going to add concrete examples for me, and it's going to work on that level. But I have to be the one that's also going to be the partner in that work. And so that's where we're able to dive into agents and learn more about that. When I wanted to be able to create an example today that's going to apply to different areas across education, no matter what role you're in, and even talk about concrete skills that we need as we get into AI and critical thinking. I've shared in the past examples of using agents to help create newsletters. Communication is another essential piece to what it is that we do, but I'll be honest, when I wanted to do newsletters or create the communication pieces I wanted to get out to my staff, faculty, my community, I was often doing it very late at night or very early in the morning because I was overwhelmed by everything else that I needed to get done. And it wasn't to quite the expectation that I wanted to be able to get out. So in one of our other sessions that I know we're going to share later in this webinar about how we were building agents, I brought up an example of a newsletter agent and being able to add in the pieces and parts that I wanted to meet that expectation, but then also save me the time that I had and as part of putting that information so that I could be more effective. That's just one example. Today, I'm going to be talking about reflective thinking. Again, essential piece to critical thinking skills that we have to be able to adapt and to grow. It's essential to learning because it's a questioning ourselves about what do I know about this? How does it connect to prior knowledge? Where am I going? How am I going to use this in application and going forward? And so I've created an agent as an example here and showing how to use it. And I'm also going to model as we go through it because I, again, added my own prompt this morning to my reflective thinking agent, sharing that I was going to be doing this webinar and I wanted 5 reflective thinking questions along the way to help with attendees understanding about using agents. And so again, I have that guide to help me be more effective as I'm going through and tying this work together. I've even created an agent, and Mike's going to love this one, about how to use learning accelerators because they're so powerful and use them more effectively in what I'm doing across when I'm working with educators and sharing more about learning accelerators and adding them to practice. So that's just an example of how you're able to be able to use these. So going through and just looking, this is an example of the prompt and the why this reflective agent. I have created an agent on instructional model that I use, which is the learn, create, share, do. I had a unit on photosynthesis. I added it into this piece about trying to add reflective questions throughout my unit so that I can make sure that my learners are with me and reflecting through that learning. And this is what it looked like. So I've got my reflective thinking agent, which is on the right-hand side. When I go to my Copilot, I can see the other agents that I have available there. And there was my prompt that I used to be able to add into my reflective agent using my photosynthesis unit that I had. I uploaded my document and was able to add it into the conversation. You can see it's going to actually give me these transitions through the lesson that I wanted to use with those questions and using in the beginning, being able to use it throughout the lesson and then the end of the lesson. And then even, reflective question time, how could I even use this going on and use this in different areas of what it is that I do in application? Well, again, we talked about how this is critical to just understanding critical thinking and new learning and how we grow new learning. You can then even expand that and put that at any type of time when you're in a learning session. So I added it to a professional development session or training session. How could I add reflective questioning across what it is I was doing? So again, it took something that was a concept, it took a strategy, it took that framework, and I was able to apply that so that I could put it in again across different types of practices or different types of work streams related to the work that I was doing. So this is the why it matters to me. And I'm going to add and ask a reflective question now, Jethro, to you. These are differentiators for me as agents. Is there anything else that's a differentiator for you?
Oh, absolutely. In a lot of ways where I use agents, right, is really to help me be faster, to really allow me to focus on the efficiency of the things I really want to spend a lot of time in. I actually had a professor at college and said, like, if you can automate certain things to do it faster, you never want to do something twice. And I strongly believe agents feels within the same category. If you get an agent to help you to get faster to the point you really want to put your energy in there to improve the quality of what you're pushing out, that's really where agents comes into play. And of course, look, I have a teaching background. I'm not nearly as close to your level of expertise. So if I need to create a presentation or do something around pedagogy, I always love to have an agent that exudes the experience that Dr. Jerry provides. All right, I will take this one. So really what we want to do before we go into the create mode and I give it back to Dr. Jerry is like, why are we using some of these agents, right? So kind of what Dr. Jerry already said in the presentation as well. Scenarios that require focus and specialization is really where you can kind of say, look, I don't need the full broad spectrum of Microsoft 365 Copilot or Copilot chat. I wanted to focus on one specific job that I need to be done, or a specialization that I need to see, or a focus moment that I have. Second one is really layering on top of the full capability of Microsoft 365 Copilot. Look, in a bit, Dr. Jerry is going to show that how an agent looks like in some of the Microsoft 365 applications. So that's another benefit that you're going to have. And then, of course, the third one is to target specific roles and areas. Like maybe you have a mentoring agent that you want to do, a teaching agent, a IT support agent, a career advice agent that you would have. And then finally, it's also the scope to specific data sources. If you're like, hey, we want our agent only to know specific information related to how that agent is supposed to work, Dr. Jerry is going to show that in a bit as well when we create an agent. And then finally, I think this is the most important one, is adding your domain knowledge, making Copilot smarter with your expertise, with your way of doing things, how your school district or how your university tackles specific tasks. All right, Dr. Jerry, are you ready to create one?
I'm ready. We talked about the why, so let's talk about the how. All right. When I'm creating an agent, I go back to Copilot. I go back to what I know. Reflective question time here. I'm still working on understanding and going through this process, although I am getting better at it. Especially example with this reflective thinking question agent. This is one of my favorites so far. So there are three basic parts that we need to have when you're thinking about an agent. And there are, of course, other areas where we're going to talk about where you can add and be more specific. But when you're thinking about those three basic parts, you're thinking about the description, which is what you want your agent to be able to do. It's the purpose of why you're having this agent in their function. You're going to talk about the instructions. Those are that specific ideas, like the specific instructions of what you want your agents to do for you. And then you're going to work on and look at those starter prompts that are going to help you guide, and if you share this agent, help others be able to use this agent. So again, reflective process. I'm still working on my starter prompts and how I want those to work. So I use Copilot to help me guide me through that. And when I start, even in Copilot, you can see I give the description and say, this is what I want to accomplish. These, I want to create this reflective thinking strategy. Can you help me create the description and the instructions? And I first start there to be able to get those basic parts. And then I get that description and I see those instructions for use. And you can see here, I've gotten my description, I've gotten my instructions for use. And then what I do in order to be able to use this is I actually come in and use this information and develop it in the next. I use Pages. So when you have your response to your prompt, you have an option to copy it or to put it in Pages. I use Pages because I've got that there, and that becomes a working space for me to go then edit my description, edit my instructions, and edit the work that I'm doing. Another tip is, I know others use a OneNote notebook. It's a great space for to be able to copy these and put them in your OneNote. But I create a library of what I am working on within these agents, agents so that if I want to use them later with others or change or tweak or that, I have a record of those. So I go ahead and I add those to pages. The next piece we're going to do is we're actually going to go to creating the agent. So when you look to where your list of agents are, you can see where you're looking for that space to create an agent. And you're going to select that from your menu. That's going to be in your menu of your Copilot where you find your other agents that are available. And you're going to get this window that pops up that goes to Copilot Studio. Now, I use and start in the describe area. And that's because it's how I converse and talk with Copilot and use it now in my daily life and how I'm using Copilot. That I can actually have a conversation with Copilot and I will copy paste my description and go through that process and have a conversation within developing my agent. Can you go to the next slide for me, Jethro? You can see it'll even ask about naming your agent. What should we name this? It's going to go through that same process of adding instructions. It's going to ask, okay, what is it that you want this agent to do? And then I copy paste my instructions in there. And it's the similar way that I'm able to add and go back and forth. I then use that conversation to work on my starter prompts until I get my agent where I want. I don't create it yet. I actually then toggle over to configure. Now, configure is where people that are more technical, like Jethro and Ovi, and I work with those there, they go straight to the configure. And that configure is going to allow you to just put in those copy, paste those spaces. So if you're comfortable there, you can go to configure, you can start there. I'm just giving examples of how I use it in my process because it makes more sense to me and how I use Copilot on a daily basis. You can change the image here and add an image that's there. You can go through and look at what you're adding. But most importantly, next slide, Jethro, is that this is where you can add that knowledge piece that's there. You can add up to 20 URLs of websites specific. You can use those URLs and they can go 2 pages deep, but it cannot be a URL that you have to sign into. It has to be a public accessible website URL that you're using. It cannot be something that you have to log into. I also toggle on web search because I put those directions in so specifically of what I want my agent to do. I go ahead and toggle the web search, so it's going to also add in any information related to what it is that I'm using. And that's how I use those pieces. To the left here, you can go ahead and test and try out your agent and see what that looks like. And next slide for me, Jethro. And then even as the configure, you can see as you go through, this is where I tweak and have been working on my starter prompts. Like I said, in this process, I'm still getting better at those because that's where I want to be able to share these agents. And I want them to be as effective as they can be when I share them and using those prompts to help others think about how they're going to use this and reflect on that. And then once I get my agent to a space where I feel like I've tested it, I hit the create, and now I've got my agent. I use mine a few more times before and make sure I have an agent that I want to share so I can change my share settings later if I need to. But this is where I can then go to the agent and it's ready to use. And as we mentioned earlier, as Jethro mentioned earlier, if you have M365 Copilot, which I do, I can even now use that agent right in Word. Now, you can do this online or in your desktop application. However, you may need to update your desktop application. When I first went to Word and was looking for my agents, Jethro was trying to help me find them, and I did not have that menu at the top to be able to find my agents, and I needed to update my application, and it definitely appeared. So now I was able to add my agent right into my work. And why does that matter? Well, now I can go ahead and use a document I'm using right in Word. I can add in my reflective thinking agent. So if I was having an outline for a webinar, an outline for professional development, a lesson, a unit, anything I'm working on, I can add my agent right now and say, hey, I would like some reflective thinking questions that I want to add. and it's going to be able to insert it right into my document. So now I'm going to end up with a completed document that's there and be able to share that. So for example, if I was working on something I work a lot, even taking out of even reflective questions and thinking about how I reflect on my practice, modeling using this, I could even add it to something that I was planning when I was talking about learning accelerators, because I work a lot with learning accelerators. I could use my learning accelerator agent here, put it in, and I can now even have ideas to share when I'm using that out and presenting with others on those topics. Another added feature having the M365 Copilot piece to it is that you can add image generators, so that you can add even images in those visual effects to be able to, again, add to what it is that you're trying to do. So going here, reflective, right? This is my challenge to you. How are you going to be able to build agents? Go back and look at your own practice and look where this might apply. My tip to everyone is go through a week and just note where you see tasks that you're working on, those things that are concrete or foundational to where it is that you're doing in your practice, and think about how an agent might help support that. You could even go old school, take out a piece of paper and a pen and write down and make sticky notes everywhere where you think an agent might help you.
Awesome. Thank you. And while we're concluding the webinar, I just want to share a few more things. Pretty much a few tools that you can use to actually build your different agents. You've seen Dr. Jerry use our Copilot Studio Agent Builder. At some point, you're going to build up the skills and you're going to notice, if only I could do add fill in the blank. Well, that's where then the full Copilot Studio comes into play. So if you have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, you have access to that as well. Talk to your IT staff so that you can build even more advanced agents that you can use within your organizations. Now, if you want to get started, this is another link that we want to share, aka.ms build agents. Like Dr. Jerry already mentioned, for one of the AI skill fests a few weeks ago, we actually did a 6 agents in 60 minutes. Dr. Jerry, myself, and one of our good coworkers, Ovi, we made that in 60 minutes. That's the URL for that. So go take a look if you want even more examples on how you can build agents. And then, of course, if you want to start building them, this is another URL that you can use. So with that, I think we're almost smack on the money. It is 29 minutes. If we want to open it up for questions, this is the time to do it.
Great. Thank you, Jethro and Jerry. What I'll do is I will great use your hand, and I'm going to go and modify the settings so people can also unmute. So give me just a moment there. But if you want to type your questions into the chat too while I'm fixing that, we can get started.
You know, there's a great question too, Jethro, that's in here, that making sure that we clarify what is available in the chat versus the M365 version, because we mostly showed what's available except for the added addition at the end, correct?
That is 100% correct. So if you have the chat version, and you can build any type of agent that uses web-grounded content that can be shared with all your users who have access to the chat. If you want to bring in Microsoft 365 content, you can still do that in the chat, but it will come with a pay-as-you-go subscription model. If you have the M365 version of Copilot, then you get everything. Then you can build as many agents as you want. People who consume the agents with an M365 Copilot license can consume with M365 grounding, web grounding, all the things that are covered. So from no cost, web grounded. If you want to do it in chat, but you want some M365 content in there, that means that you have a pay-as-you-go model, and then you can kind of upgrade to the Microsoft 365 Copilot license.
Awesome. Okay, we have the ability to unmute your mics, and I see my pal Rob Baker has his hand up. So Rob, hey, thanks for joining, and I'll ask away.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Just not surprisingly, it's a OneNote question. Everything we've done since like 2007 basically is in OneNote notebooks. We're hoping to be able to at least link to the web address of a notebook. We'd obviously love to be able to train with more specific things like section groups, sections, or an individual page. But we'll take anything right now because as it currently stands, we can't add that as a knowledge resource. So I'm hoping someone might have some comment on that's coming or not.
Yes, that's indeed coming. It's not available yet and will be an M365 Copilot license requirement to that because it's an M365 data source. But it is absolutely something that is coming. So there will be support for notebooks in M365 Copilot.
And actually, Rob, I'll just add just a bonus. I know it's not specifically agents, but in that big announcement today, they're announcing as part of the new M365 Copilot app, there's this concept called Copilot Notebooks, which, to summarize, if people have seen the Google Notebook LM concept, it's sort of a similar type of concept. You'll be able to create them in the app and also create them in OneNote or open them in OneNote. So you're going to have a supercharged Copilot Notebook set available in the near future.
All right, great. Thanks.
Looks like Michael Harvey has a question.
Yeah, Morena from New Zealand at 3:30 in the morning. Yeah, my questions. I think I put it in the QA and Mike had been answering it. But so basically, what I was looking to do is create a bespoke agent that I could share with my faculty, which could act as kind of a moderating guide for assessment. And the problem I've been hitting is that we can't upload the students' work to be moderated. So because there's no way to add extra like PDFs or PowerPoints or Word documents from their end. So I was wondering when that's going to probably come out, because that was really a hamper to use it as a tool.
So the attach a file is rolling out to agents as well. So that's one. So that will be available. It will be that you have to go into the agent, attach specific the file that you want to have, that you want to assess. So that's an opportunity. I think our peer Ovi actually did one with I think with a form and even with an image. So that's something that you might want to take a look at. Yeah, that should be rolling out soon.
Thanks.
Jason.
Hi there, coming from the UK. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Real, thank you. Yeah, so I've just been trying to get a Copilot working in Copilot Studio just in general, really. Double checked I've got the M365 license and that's all good. Just a basic Copilot using the configuration through Studio and just a basic single knowledge source, a public website, and put it into the authentication for Teams. But for whatever reason, whenever I try and talk to it in Teams, it just doesn't respond at all. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything or if you can offer any assistance there.
And you create a Teams agent in Copilot Studio, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the authentication change is the only thing I really did, so I could actually put it into Teams.
So that's a custom engine agent. That should work. I've created multiple like those. Why don't we do this? Reach out to me directly on Teams, kind of describe what you are seeing, what is blocking, and I will take a look at it and potentially something might come up that I can immediately identify where you're wrong. It should not be a huge thing. It should be very straightforward. We've done this multiple times in the past, so without getting too much into debug mode in this call, just ping me directly on Teams.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions? Jack.
Yeah, maybe you answered this already. Thanks for the presentation, but can anybody with a Microsoft Copilot chat functionality in the tenant create a web-grounded agent, or must you have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license? Like we have chat rolled out to our entire tenant. Can anybody create an agent? And if so, would we be able to monitor those somehow?
everybody who you allow to create an agent can create an agent. So there's an admin control in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center that will define who can create and use agents. So anyone with that active can create a web grounded agent for whomever they want, right? So they can share that like what Dr. Jerry showed individually, or they can submit it to your internal store if they wanted to. So that's completely done. The where it becomes paid is if you're using M365 content, for example, or any other functionality, and it's always on the consumption part. It's never on the creation part.
Oh, I'll also add, because I know some people have asked for some of the links that were shared. We're going to be posting not only this video on the Microsoft Education YouTube channel, we'll get a copy of the PowerPoint deck that Jethro and Dr. Jerry were using, and we'll post that in the description of that video link when we post it, probably a week from now on YouTube. Orla.
Hi, thank you so much. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. I was just going to ask, we often have to do data protection impact assessments whenever we incorporate any kind of innovative technology. And it's something that we obviously have to spend quite a bit of time on. And I was just wondering if you could signpost me to something perhaps that you have already pre-built, she says, pretty please, just in case I could make this task a little bit easier for myself.
We should be able to do so, yes. I don't have immediately an answer for you, but same answer, ping me directly on Teams and I will see if I can find something for you that you can use as a starting point.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I just want to add one last thing. Anytime that I'm using in specifically even these agents or demonstrating, I use my account, the demo account that comes with all of the part in the version that's not the M365, just because I want to make sure you can show and clarify that too. So I know there was some questions about that. So anything, like I said, that I showed and where I created this today was in that version if you are in the version that does not have the M365. But I did want to show where it can be extended, just to look at how it can grow within you and your practice.